The invasion of Normandy began with 16,000 aircraft, 5,000 of which were fighters, 3,500 of which were heavy bombers, and the rest were other types of aircraft. Also 6,000 troop carriers in addition to floating tanks, 1,621 battleships and destroyers, and 1,500 torpedo boats and minesweepers began the operation against the Atlantic Wall from the morning of June 6, and then the Allied force disembarked. D-Day in American military terminology usually refers to the day when a major offensive operation is to begin in the war. But most of all, one of the specific days in World War II is known by this name. This war operation is considered the largest amphibious operation in American history. General Dwight David Eisenhower was in charge of this operation. Planning for this operation had been done months ago and secretly. The military operation against Germany was nicknamed Overlord. The beaches of Normandy also got nicknames. Forces from 14 countries with a total strength of 160,000 soldiers participated in this operation. Before June, General Eisenhower and Marshal Montgomery held meetings to land on the Normandy beach. It was decided to codename the Operation Overlord, and it was decided that from the beginning of J-Day, June 1st, all warships would move towards the Normandy coast through the Isle of Wight with air defensive balloons overhead. The headquarters of the Allied forces, which was formed with Winston Churchill, decided that in order to confuse the defenders of the Atlantic Wall, the attacks of the American and British forces between the port of Cherbourg and the beaches leading to the city of the Cannes in two areas with the nicknames Utah and Omaha would be more, because the Germans thought that the invading forces would attack from the Calais region. Allied forces used two prefabricated anchors in this operation. These moorings were built in Britain, and the parts were shipped to Normandy, where they were assembled so that cargo ship could anchor. The invading forces finally decided to launch their full-scale invasion on the Normandy front on the morning of June 6, 1944, when the weather was partly foggy and the Germans had very little visibility over the sea surface. First, this attack was supposed to start on June 5, but due to storm and heavy rain, the attack started with a delay of 1 day by land, sea and air. The defense of the Atlantic Wall was commanded by two field marshals. Rommel was in charge of the defense of the French coast in the section leading to the beach ending at Cannes, and in the area ending at the port of Cherbourg, Marshal Gert. To support these ships, thousands of aircrafts and tanks were deployed. German positions were heavily bombed so that thousands of soldiers could land in these areas. The paratroops were the first soldiers to land in the area occupied by the enemy. Paratroops brought the first sensitive military positions under their control. Churchill writes in his memories, in the first stage of this operation, which was carried out in the morning of June 6, 5,200 tons of explosives were dropped by Allied ships on the concrete bunkers, and in parallel, 14,900 heavy bomber flights were made over the wall and behind the existing supply lines. Became the enemy so surprised that he could not make more than 100 combat flights over their ships. American planes in groups of 100 planes continuously bombarded the German defense and supply lines in France and the German mainland, so that the Atlantic defense line was cracked in several places, and the American and British forces penetrated behind the concrete wall. During one of these air raids, Rommel's car was attacked by air and was injured, but he was treated quickly so that he was able to go to Berlin with Hitler and ask him that the German forces before be destroyed in an orderly and gradual retreat towards the River Sun. Maybe success will be achieved in the next battle. While rejecting Rommel's proposal, Hitler said all soldiers must stand in their place and not lose a piece of French soil. But due to the gap in the Atlantic Wall, 25,000 American and British soldiers entered France every day. On June 19, the Cotentin Peninsula fell, and on June 27, the strategic port of Cherbourg was felled by the Allies. And on June 9, 1944, the city of Caen fell. And with this action, the Atlantic Wall fell. The Allied casualties in the early morning attack of June 6 were so great that Churchill wrote that we lost 10,000 dead in the first moment of the attack on the Normandy beach. Because Hitler insisted on resistance, he dismissed Goethe and replaced him on July 1, 1944 with Field Marshal Gunther as the commander of the Western Front. About 57,000 Allied soldiers were killed during this operation, 155,000 soldiers were wounded, and 18,000 soldiers were missing in this operation. The death toll of the Wehrmacht was about 200,000 soldiers. Although the Battle of Normandy is the most decisive battle in the history of World War II, but World War II lasted until about 11 months after the Battle of Normandy. Despite the inspiring and confident speeches we have from Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister at the time, he was panicked and apprehensive the night before the start of the operation and had lost his previous confidence. As he said to his wife on the night of the operation, "Can you imagine that when you wake up tomorrow morning, you will find that around 20,000 soldiers have been killed while you were sleeping?" Eisenhower, the American general, wrote a letter before the operation to be published in case of possible failure. In part of this letter, he wrote, "Our battle on the Cherbourg Harbor area has been defeated and our soldiers are retreating. My decision to attack this area was based on the information we had obtained. Our forces, both ground and air, did their best to win and fought bravely. Any blame or problem in the implementation of this operation will be returned to me because I was responsible and the main planner." Surprisingly, this letter was signed on July 5 instead of June 5, which could be due to Mr. Eisenhower being very busy on this day.